Hey everyone, I'm Scott from Superphase, and today I want to take a look back at the survival horror classic, Resident Evil 2. When I think back to my early video game memories in the 90s, things began with a theme. As a Nintendo kid, that involved games with plumbers, princesses, apes, dinosaurs, and goofy kart racing. But as I got older, my friends weren't playing as many Nintendo games as they used to. Some were lucky enough to get a PlayStation, Sony's futuristic powerhouse capable of live-action video and CD quality sound. It didn't take long for it to catch fire, either. Soon, any and all lunchroom discussion was laser-focused on Sony and their exclusive library of gruesome games. I wondered, was this something I could even convince my parents to buy? Growing up, I had a timid fascination for horror. I'd stay up late on weekends to catch glimpses of scary movies on HBO, collected issues of comic books like Todd McFarlane's Spawn, and trembled from that horror-inducing theme song from Unsolved Mysteries. Despite being rattled, I was continually drawn in, and I think that is the reason my curiosity for the PlayStation grew. I can remember getting my hands on a video game magazine from the checkout counter at our local grocery store and skimmed its pages long into the night. But this was nothing like the Nintendo Power subscriptions that landed on my kitchen counter every month. The pages of this magazine depicted macabre screenshots, and the tone of some of the games bordered on the psychotic. Among the imagery was an advertisement that has since been burned into my memory. It featured a police officer, a gun-toting lady in pink, and a uniquely disturbing creature with sharp teeth, a brain for a head, and a long tongue that seemed to creep off the page. I saw that familiar yellow and blue logo in the corner, and my curiosity skyrocketed. Years went by, and every so often I'd get a peek at the system from afar. I played a few rounds of Tekken 2 at my cousin's house, but that was it for the most part. Then one night, my mom offered to do something awesome. We couldn't afford to just go out and buy a PlayStation on the spot, but she told me the video store in town had a system for rent, and we left to do just that. I could hardly contain my excitement as I pawed over the plastic game cases lining the shelves. Ridge Racer, Twisted Metal. I would have happily taken any of them home. But since I could only rent one, I remembered the creepy ad from the magazine at home and scanned the black spines until I spotted it. Resident Evil 2. The first chill came as soon as the main menu loaded. The leering red eye and disembodied voice growled like a warning from hell. I've seen RE2's opening probably 100 times now, and I don't think I've ever skipped past its incredible intro cinematic. There's something about that original PlayStation era of FMV that will always be beautiful to me. Back then, it was like looking into the future, and seeing Leon and Claire evade zombies in the police cruiser for the first time is a core gaming memory that I'll cherish forever. With a blazing inferno between them, Leon and Claire navigate Raccoon City on their own, and it is at this point that the player finally takes control. It was a genius decision on Capcom's part to start things here, because the city itself acts as a tutorial for the game's mechanics. In minutes, RE2 teaches you that blindly running forward is not a great option, and keeping space and resources on hand is paramount. Respecting the undead is non-negotiable, because although they are slow, they have the ability to close distance quickly. Learning to pick fights when necessary and moving along when you can afford to is important, and the streets convey to the player that Leon and Claire can't hope to kill everything they encounter. After navigating the side streets, our heroes reach the gates of the Raccoon City police station, where it is hoped that backup is waiting to receive them. Unfortunately, no such luck. The Grand Art Museum turned Police HQ looks abandoned, and it soon becomes obvious that the station has endured its own share of horrors. The only officer you're able to find is Marvin, but he's lost a lot of blood, and he'd rather see you escape than be assisted. He hands you his keycard and tells you to look for other survivors. Still, you make a promise to return. The Raccoon City Police Department stands as one of the most iconic and memorable environments in video game history. There is an eeriness present in every room of the RPD, and the sculptures, taxidermy, and strange artwork only add to the unease. Masami Ueda's original 1998 soundtrack deepens the discomfort, harnessing retro B-movie synth and stings to elevate the tension. Though Capcom's 2019 remake is my preference when revisiting RE2, the classic sound swap is an essential download. But the true genius is baked into the station's very design. Not only do the rooms and corridors leave the player uncomfortably exposed, but every shift of the original still-shot camera forces an amount of dread as you venture forth. The blood-soaked offices of the east and west wings are on lockdown, and you'll notice the more significant doors will denote a specific playing card suit upon them: spade, club, diamond, and heart. Progressing through both wings of the RPD will lead to puzzles and key items, but consider your saves in the event that you find a safe haven along your journey. There is a unique brand of anxiety that comes with making worthy progress in Resident Evil and not having a single ink ribbon to save your game. As Leon and Claire broaden their access within the RPD, they encounter things worse than roaming zombies. Clinging to the walls and ceilings are lickers, biomutants with long tongues that cannot see but pose a serious risk if they manage to hone in on you. These are some of my favorite video game enemies because their presence alone deepens the tension. Handling lickers effectively means treating the situation with care. They're attracted to sound, so stomping around corridors is less than ideal. If things go south, a few shotgun shells or acid rounds will take them down, but it's possible to sneak by if you're daring enough and tactful. Upon entering the parking garage, another predator lies in wait. Having broken free from the precinct's kennel are a pack of infected Doberman, or Cerberus enemies. These quick canines aren't the most resilient foe, but their tendency to lunge and outmaneuver the player will cause issues if you don't have herbs or a first aid spray handy. In my experience, it's typically worth the few shots it takes to put them down rather than try and evade them. Fending off RE2's common enemies is hard enough, but the threats don't stop there. The 1998 original introduced an enemy archetype that strikes fear into the hearts of players to this day. After reaching the roof and extinguishing the fire from a crashed chopper, something shoves the wreckage aside before you can pass. The giant trenchcoat-clad Hulk, referred to in licensed material as Mr. X, is an enemy that will doggedly pursue the player all over the station. You can shoot as much as you like, but you'll only slow him down. Mr. X's debut not only changed Resident Evil forever, he went on to become an iconic horror component that influenced the modern horror genre as a whole. Series creator Shinji Mikami drew inspiration for his design from Clock Tower's Scissorman, a relentless 2D stalker that would appear anywhere to pin down his fleeing enemies. Mr. X puts the player's knowledge of the RPD to the test, so it's important to know which routes can help throw him off your trail and which will lead to dead ends. Aside from a few safe havens, Mr. X will follow you anywhere. Since RE2 contains two characters, each with an A and B scenario, there are exclusive slices of the game that belong to each individual's journey. Playing through both is satisfying not only because the blanks in the story get filled in, but because the paths and experiences in each scenario are a little bit different. Now that the game has been given an incredible remake, there are even more ways to shake up the scares throughout multiple playthroughs. To keep things consistent, I'll be referencing story events from the 2019 remake going forward. Following Leon tells the story of the rookie cop and elusive Ada Wong, an FBI agent who's come to Raccoon City on an important mission. Ada explains that Umbrella has some kind of hand in the unfolding disaster, and her informant Ben has the info she needs to bring them down. After discovering Ben has been killed in his jail cell, the two escape the station with his keycard and make their way toward the sewer access behind the Kendo gun shop. As they pass, they enter into a standoff with the shop owner Robert and his infected daughter Emma. The reality of the pharmaceutical giant's actions becomes clearer than ever, and Leon remembers why he decided to become a cop in the first place. Protecting the citizens of Raccoon City means bringing those responsible to justice, and it is here that Leon understands he must aid the FBI rather than escape the crumbling city. Ada leads the way to her target with Leon in tow. Together, they search for Umbrella researcher Annette Birkin. Both character scenarios are well done and give more form to the sinister shadow that is the Umbrella Corporation. The specter of Umbrella is one of my favorite elements of the Resident Evil franchise because it exists as an invisible, untouchable force that pulls the strings from behind the scenes. Umbrella has also become eerily relevant to the times we actually live in, where corporations play on the periphery of the law and prey on the public for power and profit. As I get older, I find myself appreciating video games in new ways, and looking back at Resident Evil through this lens has only made me admire Capcom's work more. Meanwhile, Claire searches for Sherry, a lone child she met in the boiler works beneath the station who is desperately looking for her mother. Sherry says her parents work for Umbrella, and that the locket she carries around her neck is of the utmost importance. As they attempt to escape via the RPD's parking garage, Claire has the displeasure of bumping into Police Chief Irons, who forces Sherry to tie her up before stealing her away. But Sherry wisely sneaks Claire her pendant before being taken. Left to be a snack for the undead, Claire manages to untie herself and gets back into contact with the chief over radio. He demands she brings the pendant to him if she wants to save Sherry, and after finding the means necessary to escape the station, Claire braves the orphanage where Sherry is being held. It becomes clear that the deranged police chief has been operating outside the confines of the law, and keeping in very close contact with some shadowy figures. Added to Claire's journey in the 2019 remake is a segment where the player's perspective is shifted to Sherry holed up at the orphanage. A surprising amount of environmental storytelling is at work while we sneak about looking for any means to escape. During Sherry's time in captivity, she discovers just how twisted Irons actually is. After freeing herself from her room, Sherry hears the chief whistling away in another room while he works. She makes a break downstairs for the front door, but of course, it's locked. In order for her to escape, she'll need to snag the key dangling from Irons' belt loop, but as she walks into the room, she stumbles upon even greater horror. On a table in the center of the room is the pale body of Catherine Warren, daughter of Raccoon City Mayor Michael Warren, who fled the city when things went south. We knew Irons was into collecting rare and strange art after seeing his makeover of the station, but from the looks of things, he is prepping Catherine to be the newest addition to the private taxidermy exhibit connected to his office. RE2 director Hideki Kamiya says that looking back, his team wanted to make Chief Irons an even more diabolical figure than they originally did, but due to time constraints, they couldn't flesh him out. The 2019 remake seems to have done them justice. Both Leon and Claire make their way through the Raccoon City sewer system as new threats rear their head. Sherry and Irons suffer an attack from some sort of monster at the orphanage, and although Claire manages to save her, Sherry now exhibits symptoms of infection. While she heads to Umbrella's Nest facility to help the poor kid out, Leon and Ada experience their own set of troubles. Chief among them being attacked by a giant alligator and hunting down an especially hostile Annette Birkin for something Ada calls the G-virus. But the biggest threat comes from something that has been hunting our heroes from the shadows. As they find their way downward, the trenchcoat-wearing Mr. X finally closes the distance, breaking his way through elevator doors to corner you. But before he can get his hands on you, a giant mutated claw tears him in half from behind. This beast is even bigger and stares at you with a giant pulsing eye emerging from its overgrown arm. Upon closer inspection, it looks to have at one point been human, but now painfully overtaken by the organic mass of gore and muscle that stands before you. After fighting the creature off, you reach the nest, and the situation becomes clearer than ever. You discover the origin of the nightmare from a combination of VHS body cam footage, some Umbrella employee emails you've snooped through, and by tracking down Annette Birkin herself. The tapes confirm everything, detailing the events of the disaster firsthand. Dr. William Birkin, a researcher for Umbrella, has made a breakthrough. The new virus he's spent his life working to create, codenamed G, has been completed. Despite his efforts, Umbrella obtains intel of the project's completion and have taken a strong interest in securing Birkin's work for its potential use as a bioweapon. When Umbrella requests Birkin forfeit his viruses to them, he refuses, and in response, the company sends their paramilitary elite to take the samples by force. Birkin's only move is to have his connection at the RPD bolster security. Despite his attempted lockdown, William is cornered at gunpoint and refuses to cede his research to the suits at Umbrella. But as he produces his pistol to defend himself, the Alpha team dispatch him with samples in hand. The team retrieves Birkin's suitcase per request from HQ, but before he fades, the doctor takes a syringe from his lab coat and injects himself with the G virus. The last bit of cam footage shows Dr. Birkin in an early stage of G mutation as he corners members of the outfit as they try to escape. Birkin brings a grisly end to his victims, and as he shambles out of frame, the camera is left displaying several broken vials on the floor, their contents being consumed by nearby rats. Shortly after, the outbreak of Raccoon City would occur. As our heroes depart the monorail, they confirm the awful truth. Umbrella's secret laboratory has devolved into a cannibal horror show, and every sector of the nest has been locked down to combat the spread of infection. After Claire obtains access to the antivirus with Sherry's pendant, Annette administers the saving dose, curing the child of advanced infection. Meanwhile, Leon successfully retrieves the remaining G sample for Ada, but on his way back, an encounter with Annette changes everything. After fending off another attack from G, Annette lets Leon in on an interesting bit of information. His partner Ada isn't associated with the FBI at all, and according to Umbrella's intel, is working for an outside organization that has been trying to obtain Umbrella research for quite some time. Leon confronts Ada, and as the truth comes to light, the situation results in a standoff. Sadly, Annette was right, and whatever Ada plans to do with the G virus, it can't be good. This bit of drama really worked for me. The remake imagines Ada as a more manipulative character than she was in the original, and I think it benefits her character. But with them now at odds over the G virus, the Rook must put their relationship to the test. Instead of following through with his duty, Leon appeals to his betrayer. He lowers his gun and insists she lower hers. He says he knows she couldn't hurt him and asks for them to talk things out together. But just as Ada begins to lower her pistol, she takes a bullet to the chest. Annette holds the smoking gun as she fades from her wounds, and Leon desperately scrambles to help Ada back up to safety. Sadly, Leon's grip eventually fails, and Resident Evil's femme fatale falls, swallowed by the cavernous depths. Leon mourns Ada's loss, but is quickly interrupted by the initiation of the nest's self-destruct alarm. There's only a few minutes on the clock, and it's time for our heroes to get the hell out of the facility and back to the surface before everything explodes. The G mutation interrupts their progress with a fight sequence, but eventually Leon, Claire, and Sherry reunite at the monorail in time to flee the nest and Raccoon City altogether. But there is one last hang-up preventing the good guys from escaping free and clear. G has managed to hang on and has been clinging to the tail of the monorail since it sped away from the secret facility. At this point in his metamorphosis, Dr. Birkin is completely unrecognizable, having been fully reduced to a mass of insatiable gore, teeth, and eyes. We put bullet after bullet into the beast until it finally falls back, crashing into an explosive wreckage within the monorail tunnel. It's finally over. Selling almost 5 million units and grossing an estimated 300 million upon its original worldwide release, Resident Evil 2 ensured the franchise's future. It proved that Shinji Mikami's original masterpiece was more than just a flash in the pan, and that the hunger for the survival horror genre was real. A year later, Capcom supported the PlayStation with even more scares, releasing Resident Evil 3, Nemesis, and Dino Crisis. Hideki Kamiya would go on to direct Capcom favorites Devil May Cry, Beautiful Joe, and Okami. He departed Capcom's Clover Studio in 2006 and founded Seeds Inc. in Osaka with Shinji Mikami and Atsushi Inaba. The independent game developer would later become known as Platinum Games, creators of Bayonetta, Mad World, and Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Resident Evil 2 not only made me a lifelong fan of the series, it opened a door to a slice of the hobby that I didn't know if I was brave enough to enjoy. Silent Hill, Fatal Frame, so many games I could have missed out on had I not been intrigued enough to give things a try and explore beyond my initial comfort zone. I have many cherished memories thanks to Resident Evil 2, so thank you Capcom, and my dear mom, for renting a PlayStation from the video store that one night. I love you. Thanks for taking the time to check out Super Phase and our look back at Resident Evil 2. Don't forget to subscribe for more gaming reviews, updates, and discussions. We really appreciate your feedback and support. Be safe, be well, and cheers!